Some people have asked how to do a graph and a table using Excel and then use that graph or that table in Word or PowerPoint or one of those programs. So here's how you do it. Make sure you open Excel up, and I've already got a copy open here. I'll just open a new one. A blank workbook, and if it's too small for you to see or you want to make it a bit easier to see, I go about 150. We then want to type in our table. So if we're doing, say, the height of a plant, then here we might have the week that we were measuring the plant, and here we might have plant height. And we want that in centimetres or millimetres, whatever you're using for your experiment. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8. Week 9, we might do 10 weeks. Depends how long you've gone for. You can double click here to make our column a bit wider. Double clicking it moves it to the widest part of so these are our headings for our table. The plant height might have been 2, 3, 6, and it started to grow a bit more. Week 5 it was 10 centimetres. Week 6 maybe 16 or 15 centimetres. And 20, 22, so it started to slow down at the end here. So there's our plant height. Now what we might want to do is do a graph of these results. So I can copy these and jump over to Word. Oops, just went to the wrong program. Jump over to Word. And as soon as Word loads, we could use that copied table from Excel, click a blank document, maybe put a heading, then paste it. So all I did then was press Control V for paste. There's other ways I could do it. I can go paste here, and I can see what it looks like with my different pastes. So I might want a table like that. Looks pretty good. And then I can use that in my results section. Table you can move around. You can change what it looks like. Maybe I want the top part highlighted. So I want to put light grey sort of colour in the top there. And I might want to write stuff next to it or behind it. I can move it around on the screen. If I have several of them, I can put them next to each other. So that's just one thing you can do with a table, put it in Word. So back to our Excel spreadsheet. Don't worry about the lines, that just means I selected it, so that's what's in memory. So I want to do a graph of this. So what I could do, I can go Insert and make sure I select what I want to put in my graph, including the headings. So I want week 1, this column, and that'll probably, because it's time and it's the first variable, this is my independent variable, and this is my dependent variable. This is the cause, this is the effect. This is the one that is I'm changing or measuring, and this was the one that changes because of that. Anyway, so we have our table, and we want to put a graph. Now we could press, this one looks like a line graph, and I'll press it, but you'll see what happens. It comes out, and you can hold it over these to see what it looks like. It's grabbing, it's doing something else with these variables. It's not comparing them to each other. So it's doing a graph of each, and it's very misleading. So we don't want just a line graph. We want to go to a scatter graph. So if I go up here, and you'll see this one, looks like Insert Scatter, and that's when you want to show the variable or the relationship between two variables. As one goes up, what happens to the other? You don't want to draw them separately. Two variables on the same graph. So we go to Scatter. And here we can see, as the weeks go by, my graph goes up, the height of the plants. We can do it with a nice smooth line, if we think it's not a straight line. We can do it without the points. We can do it with just a scatter with straight lines between points. Not recommended, as we want a line of best fit. And we can do the same graph without the lines. We can also do bubbles and other things, and there's more choices down below. So we're just going to pick our just a plain scatter graph. So now we have some values here. We don't want plant height as our heading, so we can double click on that and change it to, say, height of plant over time in weeks. I also want a line through here to show me a line of best fit. Is it a straight line or is it something else? So to do that and to add things, make sure our graph is selected and go up here, and you want to add things to your graph. I want to add maybe a trend line. Now don't worry about which one you have so far. We want to pick more trend line options and have a look over here. Do we want the straight line? Do we want a logarithmic line? That doesn't seem to fit our points very well. Polynomial line, power line, moving average. It's below our points, so this looks like it could be a straight line graph or a polynomial. They both fit pretty well, so I'm just going to use the linear line here. Seems like the plant's growing fairly consistently. It's not changing and going up or down. It's sort of approaching the same. We also want some axes, labels on our axes. So let's go and look for axes. Axes themselves, they've already been plotted for us. So we want the axes titles. We want the horizontal one down the bottom here, which was weeks. If you triple click, you'll select the whole thing. And then we want one up here on the vertical side. So axes, titles, vertical, and 1, 2, we'll click one word, 1, 2, 3, we'll click all words. So we want plant height, and maybe what the units were, definitely what the units were. Okay, our graph's looking pretty good now. Now we can use that. I can click on the graph, right click, copy. I don't want to copy it here, so I want to copy this graph. Go home, I can get a copy. Then I can jump over into Word, paste my graph. Or I can jump over into PowerPoint. I can paste all of these things from Excel to Word to PowerPoint or other things. So blank presentation, I want a blank slide, and I'll paste my graph in here. Once graph's pasted, you can do some altering and you can do some other things. There's some variety of things over here you can change. Maybe make it look like this. No, probably not. This is how it was, full. We'll just undo those, and I can make my graph as big as I want. Or maybe I want to write stuff down the side here, put a heading, maybe change the background so my graph stands out a little bit better. So I might put a purpley colour on the background. Okay, the tables, same again. If I come from Excel, I can get my table, copy. So here we've got copy on the home menu. Jump back over to PowerPoint and paste. And here's a graph, a table. And we can move it around, make it bigger and smaller, and make it look nice. We could put the graph and the table on the same page. People a better idea of what's going on so they can see all the data, and then write something down here with a text box. Okay, just a quick introduction to graphing in PowerPoint, Word. You can actually graph in some of those programs, but we've started with Excel, done our table, gone to Insert and put our scatter graph. Then gone over into, so we've done our graphing. Got to be clicked on here when you want to add things. And we can then save a copy and use this as part of our assignment. There is another one if you want a quick look. And I have one here before, if I want to put multiple things in my table, so I've got weeks here, plant height, plant 2's height, plant 3's height. Remember, the first row has to be headings for your top column for your table, and it's these things that are going to be plotted on the graph. Our first column is usually the one that goes down the bottom of the graph, the x-axis. This is the independent variable, and these ones depend on that. So here we've got our dependent variables separately. If we select the whole lot, go to Insert, Charts again, Scatter Graph. This time I might put a line. I might have a straight line. Actually, we'll put this, and we'll put another line on another way. So here we've got our graph. We can triple click on title and change it. We can add things by clicking on the graph and going add element. So here I might want to put a trend line on, and it says which one, because I've got 3. So I want plant 3 maybe, okay. And it's put a line in for me. If I click on these points, I can do some editing myself. So if I click on this one here, and it's not selecting, there it is. So these grey ones are selected. I think it's plant number 3. I can go element, and I can change those trend line options over here on the side. And the one that does that is this one, to do with graphs. We can colour the trend lines, we can do all sorts of things, shade them, put glows around them. Now this one looks pretty good as a linear graph. This orange one, however, we need to click on it. We want to select all of them. So click off and click back on, and you'll get all of them. Add element, because we haven't added that over here. Trend line, we'll just get more trend lines, and we'll pick one for the orange graph. It's jumped to linear by itself. I might want to put logarithmic, goes the wrong way. Polynomial, that's not too bad actually. Moving average, no, it's below all the points. So maybe I'll put polynomial for this one. And that's my trend line for that. You can draw your own trend lines, but once you've got that, you can copy your graph and do whatever else you want with it. Don't forget, label all the axes and put a title on. So I'm just going to copy it. I'll go to Word, paste it in Word, and that's fine. Or I'll go to PowerPoint, new slide, and paste it in here. Okay, you've got some other things on the side here you can change if you wish. If your graph is not changing, so you don't want a squashy graph, hold down Shift and pull your graph up, and you'll get a large graph explaining the same thing. You can do some editing in here too. Alright, hope that helps.